the IDF carried out a targeted strike in Beirut on Fuad Shukr, also known as Said Muhsin, Hezbollah's most senior military commander and the head of its strategic unit. Fuad Shukr was the right-hand man to Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader and his advisor in planning and directing attacks and operations. Fuad Shukr was the commander responsible for the Majd al-Shams massacre, in which 12 children were murdered after Hezbollah fired an Iranian Falak 1 rocket directly at a soccer field in northern Israel on Saturday evening. Hezbollah's ongoing aggression and brutal attacks are dragging the people of Lebanon and the entire Middle East into a wider escalation. This evening, the IDF carried out a targeted strike in Beirut on Fuad Shukr, also known as Said Muhsin, Hezbollah's most senior military commander and the head of its strategic unit. Fuad Shukr was the right-hand man to Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader and his advisor in planning and directing attacks and operations. Fuad Shukr was the commander responsible for the Majd al-Shams massacre, in which 12 children were murdered after Hezbollah fired an Iranian Falak 1 rocket directly at a soccer field in northern Israel on Saturday evening. He was a senior terrorist who has the blood of the Israelis and many others on his hands. One day after Hamas massacre on October 7th, Hezbollah joined Hamas in attacking Israelis. Since then, Hezbollah has fired thousands of rockets, missiles, and UAVs at Israel over the last 9.5 months, killing Israeli civilians and soldiers, and forcing 60,000 Israelis to evacuate from their homes. The IDF will not tolerate terrorist attack on Israeli civilians. We have been responding to these attacks with precise strikes on Hezbollah commanders, terror operatives, and military infrastructures in Lebanon. Hezbollah's ongoing aggression and brutal attacks are dragging the people of Lebanon and the entire Middle East into a wider escalation. While we prefer to resolve hostilities without a wider war, the IDF is fully prepared for any scenario. We have a duty to ensure the safe and secure return of Israelis to their homes in northern Israel, and we will continue to act to defend all people of Israel.
I think it's a limited response as far as the Israelis think and are concerned, but whether it's going to be seen as a limited response by Hezbollah is yet to be seen. It's a limited response in that it was a direct hit on a building targeting a particular commander who, according to the Israelis, is responsible for the attack on Majd al-Shams in the Golan Heights. And this was quickly followed by a statement, at least attributed to the Israelis, saying, this is the end of the attack. So it was very much a limited. Now, the question that it happened, it's a strike that hit southern suburbs of Beirut, so Beirut itself. It hit a civilian site, right? And we'll have casualties. Already two are confirmed dead, 100, I mean, tens are injured. This is a highly densely populated area. I expect the casualty rate to increase. The combination of a hit on a civilian site and leading to a civilian casualty rate, that will mean that Hezbollah will respond. The question is how they will respond. In this respect, I think they will respond in a way that sends clear, a similar message to the Israelis, like we had to respond, it's limited, and that's the end of the story for now. Given the group that get targeted, and given Hezbollah's careful cost benefit decisions about hits and reaction and counter reactions, and given Hezbollah's careful political game, regionally as well as inside the country in Lebanon, I really discount the possibility that it was an intentional direct. And so they are careful. Nasrallah keeps saying, their calculus or their operations follow a specific equation, hit for a hit, proportional tit for tat. And they understand. I think they understood that the hit on Majd al-Shams was going to mean a retaliation from Israel. They knew that. I think the question is what kind of retaliation, and now they know what kind of retaliation it is. Now the question is what's going to be their response. The intention is to make sure that the crisis remains contained for now. And they have been at it since last Saturday when the attack on Majd al-Shams took place. And so messages have been, sent via emissaries to Hezbollah from the Americans and from other also regional leaders about the importance of containing this crisis. Look, I think the focus right now is to get this deal on Gaza done as quickly as possible, because that's going to be the only guarantee that this crisis does not escalate, or there will be no other future crisis like this one that can devolve into a major regional war. And so, because Nasrallah and has made it very clear that if there is a ceasefire deal in Gaza, the whole, not only Hezbollah, but every other members of the resistance axis will cease their operations, targeting Israeli and US assets. Their interests coincide 100% with Hezbollah's interests. In matters of war and peace, Hezbollah and Iran align 100%. And actions are very highly coordinated between them. And so their interest, similar to Hezbollah's interest, is to keep this low-level conflict going, as long as there is no ceasefire in Gaza, to pressure the Israelis to go to the ceasefire deal, but at the same time to and to try at the same time contain the conflict from devolving into a major regional war. And that is an interest, in fact, which is very much, part of this interest, which is the containment of the crisis, preventing a regional war, is very much aligned with the US interest as well.